guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have one of the most absolutely beautiful and exciting things that I have ever had the pleasure of taking a look at here on the channel with you guys. Standing here right before us, it is a gorgeous Tyrannosaurus Rex with some young, and this is actually created by Art Projects. If you can recall, I reviewed two of their models quite a ways back, which were the Styracosaurus, and there was also a Pteranodon. And this was the only one that was missing from my collection, was the gorgeous, gorgeous Tyrannosaurus Rex that they had created. And I was absolutely in love with their models when they had arrived. In fact, my reviews, I would say, were raving reviews because they were just so insanely nice. Again, miles better than I expected them to be, which I actually had some pretty high expectations for them in the first place. But this Tyrannosaurus was one that I definitely wanted to get a hold of, especially after seeing the other models in person. And I can say that without question, this is one of the most beautiful Tyrannosaurus models I have ever seen in my entire life. Of course, these come fully painted, fully built, just an unbelievable model of the highest quality possible. And if we take the camera up here and take a look at it, you can see just how absolutely insanely nice this is. You can see a gorgeous Tyrannosaurus standing here with some feathers there on its back, so it's slightly feathered, but not fully feathered. In fact, most of the body is a scaly type look, but we just kind of have some feathers running along the back of the Tyrannosaurus. And then we have some babies down here that also look incredible, and those babies I do believe are fully feathered. So this again is just next level beauty, and I am so unbelievably excited to take a closer look at it with you guys. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So the model actually comes in 4 different pieces. You have the Tyrannosaurus, the adult, and then you also have 2 babies which actually separate from the base, and you also have the base. So we will start with, of course, the main star of the show, which is the adult Tyrannosaurus. And you can see that the actual detailing on this is just phenomenal, like you would pretty much come to expect from anything Art Projects. If you have taken a look at my previous reviews of their work, they deliver some of the absolute most jaw-droppingly gorgeous work you'll ever see. You can see some beautiful binocular vision here on our Rex, with kind of almost a smug look on his or her face right there. But you can instantly see so much realism, not only with the sculpt, but the paintwork is just fantastic. There are so many different tones of color included in the paintwork of this model that it is honestly just jaw-dropping. And there's just like a kind of like a, what you would expect on a theropod like this, more of like a dull, darker appearance as far as the coloration goes, which I absolutely love. But yet it's really impressive just how much paint is actually included, as there are just tons and tons of different tones of colors throughout this Tyrannosaur, some which are very, very subtle, which makes this even more incredible. And there's also other elements of realism that you can see here, like injuries to the face. Straight away up here on the face, you could see quite a few injuries that are also sculpted out but painted beautifully, very realistically. And one area that you probably pick out straight away that is a very cool injury that I really like is the fact that the skin has kind of been torn here up over the lips, because the Tyrannosaur does have lips. You can see that primarily you don't really see the teeth or anything, but there was an injury at some point to this Tyrannosaurus right here, which has caused 2 of the teeth to be exposed. And I love that. That is such a cool idea on the part of Art Projects. Something I've actually never seen before in a dinosaur model. So one of the reasons why I think I'm so in love with that little area of this model is because it's something that is entirely new to me, but they also pulled it off perfectly. Like, you can see just how incredible that is, and considering we're kind of looking here at the inside of the mouth, you can see it has a very nice glossy look, and in general, as you run along the course of the mouth, you can kind of see like a really nice saliva-like look, like it looks wet and stuff right there, which is really cool. Again, so many different levels of realism added to this model. The detail here on the lower jaw is also absolutely fantastic. Really nice scale work again. Lots of beautiful paint application as well. The eyes are painted with a really nice bluish coloration, and both eyes are painted perfectly. You can see just how incredible they look. Again, the paint application to the face here of this Tyrannosaurus is off the charts. Just looking at it right here from this, vantage point, you could see so much variation of color. Art Projects really does just an unbelievable job continuously on everything they produce. And you can definitely see that here with this one. Again, you can see the fact that this Tyrannosaur has lips. You can also see the nostrils are very nicely highlighted with a darker coloration, and they as well have a bit of a gloss coat in there. So another very realistic aspect of the model. The eyes as well have a gloss coat, so that shines like real eyes would. Just unbelievable. I cannot stress just how impressive this model truly is. Easily one of, if not the most impressive dinosaur models that I've ever seen, as far as both realism and the actual paint application included is just so unbelievable. As you move back here into the body, you can see the ear right here on the Tyrannosaur. You can also see how the feathers start to pick up here on the top of the head. And it does have a pretty good abundance of feathering up here on the top of the head. As we run down the back of the neck, you can also see some really nice creasing and stuff here in the neck as the Tyrannosaur has its head turned to the left, so it would be really nicely bunching that skin up. As you move down here into the neck, actually, you can see some nice variation of color, as you have like some hints of like purplish pinks and stuff right here, as well as a really nice, very subtle area of blue, which just adds a really nice element of flashiness to the Tyrannosaur, which otherwise has, kind of a darker, dull paint scheme, which is, again, this is exactly what I like to see on large theropods like this, because I really feel like this is the way that they would have looked, so it's super impressive just how nice this is. There's a lot of really nice movement shown here on the underside of the throat as well. Again, more of that really nice kind of flashier coloration. As we move down here into the chest of the Tyrannosaurus, you can see some nice muscle definition right there. The Tyrannosaur in general has a very big, beefy appearance to him. He definitely looks like a very strong animal. You can definitely see some beautiful skin texture and everything here in the stomach region, as well as, yet again, just a load of color variation with some really nice shading and everything done. Like, it's just magnificent from a paintwork and detailing standpoint. As you move down here into the arm, you can see that those feathers actually run down here all the way down into the arm, and he actually has some feathers kind of hanging off the back of the arm right there. You can also see the fingers look really nice, beautifully painted nails, given a nice gloss coat, painted with a nice brownish coloration, so they as well look very realistic. And as we move back up here into the back of the body, again, you can see all of the really nice feather detail. It's not any type of like elaborate feather detail. It kind of almost looks similar to like a light variation of like emu type feathers, and it looks really good and really natural on the dinosaur. And I know that we definitely believe Tyrannosaur to be scaly at this point, but it's also really fun to actually see that kind of slightly feathered version while still being a scaly Tyrannosaur. I love that, and I always have. It's definitely one of my favorite interpretations of a Tyrannosaur. As you move back here into the hip region, you can see the hip bone elaborated a little bit up here, even within that feather detail right there. And then moving down into the thigh, you can see some very nice muscle definition. It's a very strong looking animal for sure. Again, tons of beautiful paint variation throughout the area here of the thigh. You can also see how the skin is kind of stretching off of the tail. You can just in general see so much really nice structure to the leg, as well as pretty much the positioning of the leg displayed perfectly in the sculpt. The actual fine detailing, like the skin texture and everything, looks incredible. You have lots of like creases and stuff in the skin there. You can pick out the kneecap right there as you move down the course of the shin. It looks beautiful. You also have, again, some very large bulging calf muscles right there. Moving down into the foot, get a better view of it right there, a little bit of a better view. That foot looks gorgeous. You again have some nice scoots running down the course of the feet, but the paintwork is just phenomenal down here as well. Even the nails themselves actually have variations of paint included, as you can see different tones of browns and even potentially like some blacks in there. It's really hard to tell, but they also sport a very realistic gloss coat to them. And of course we do have dew claws, which you can see on the opposing foot right there, as that foot is picking up off of the ground as the Tyrannosaur is walking or taking a step. Moving back up here into the tail, again, the detailing aspect looks great. As you move out the length of the tail, and as I kind of turn it here, you can really kind of pick up on all of the very subtle color difference on this Tyrannosaur. The underside in general has kind of like a pinkish tone to it, which looks super, super cool. That's one thing that I've stated ton of times at this point about PNSO when they create their dinosaurs and they give them those really kind of subtle pinkish tones. I love that, and SP Art Projects has done that perfectly with this Tyrannosaur here. It just looks so lifelike and realistic. You can also see that there is a cloaca here on the underside for our Tyrannosaur, and as you move out the length of the tail isn't in any kind of like crazy dramatic position, but it does have a slight curve to it, which you can see quite nicely right there. But as you reach the tip of the tail, you start to see quite a few different variations of color picking up out here at the tip, as we actually have like variations of greens and almost like reds and stuff like that in there. That's really cool looking, and again, lots of color variation included, which makes it even more lifelike and realistic. As we take a look at the opposing side of the head, it's a little tough to truly get a good angle of this due to the length of the Tyrannosaurus tails kind of tapping the ground down there, but you can see that again, it just looks gorgeous. The paintwork is just picture perfect on this Tyrannosaurus, and the sculpt is incredible. You can even see a few more wounds that have shown up here on the face of the Tyrannosaur on this side. Not quite as drastic as what we had seen on the opposing side, but definitely there, and looks really nice. You can see the ear again back here. As we move back into the neck region, you can see some more of that blue picking up, as well as again that really cool flashy coloration here for the underside of the throat, which I just am absolutely in love with. And then of course it transitions to a much darker coloration as we reach the top of the head of the Tyrannosaur, and the feather detail up here just looks incredibly nice. As you move down the neck, you could see like just generally like some tensing as the dinosaur has its head turned. It's kind of stretching the skin over here, but it's also tensing the neck. That is really nicely shown in the sculpt right there. This arm is held into the body really quite nicely. The arm over here is out a little bit. You can see it's extended away a little bit, but this one's held in a really nice natural way. Both arms honestly look great as far as a positioning standpoint goes, but you can also pick up on, again, so much color variation throughout the course of this figure. Even when we look over here, like, it's just unbelievable how realistic and lifelike the actual paint scheme here in the paint application is. Looking back here again at the feathering up here on the top of the Tyrannosaur, you can see like variations of dark browns and blacks that mix beautifully throughout the course of those feathered areas. You can see how the skin is kind of bunching up a little bit and creasing right there as this leg is picking up and pushing into the body. You can kind of see like the girth of the stomach region pushing up a little bit as the Tyrannosaur is taking a step. Again, you can definitely pick up on how nice that muscle definition is here in the thigh, and just see how incredible all of the skin movement is sculpted out in the sculpt. Like, you could just see so much like wrinkling, and just basically looking at this, I can almost envision the movement of the Tyrannosaur here as it's moving its leg, because it is so perfectly displayed in the sculpt. And you can see again the variations of color throughout, very subtle areas, even including like pinkish tones up here in the leg, as well as the greenish tones in certain areas. As we move down the leg continues to be very big and bulky, very intimidating looking. And then as you move down into the foot sculpt, you can actually see both feet a little nicer, I think, from this angle. And both feet are just phenomenal looking as far as the sculpt goes, but also the paint, the nails again look super realistic and really nice. You can see the dew claw now on the opposing foot over there, and just see how nice the color variation is on the feet of the Tyrannosaur over here. And then as we move back up into the tail, again, you can see how like the skin is stretching off of the body right there. As we move out the length of the tail, it continues to just look absolutely gorgeous in every area, every angle, no matter what way you look at it. This Tyrannosaur is about the nicest Tyrannosaurus I may have ever seen. It is just drop dead gorgeous. Even the undersides of the feet are really nicely detailed. So this is potentially my new favorite Tyrannosaurus in my collection, and that's really saying something because I have a lot of really nice Tyrannosaurs, but this is just incredible. And then as far as the baby Tyrannosaurs that are down there walking amongst its, well, I guess this could be either a mother or a father, I don't really know for sure, but walking with its parent, you can see again that they look really beautiful, very nicely sculpted, completely fully feathered, and again having that kind of emu-like downy type feathering that you see all over the Tyrannosaur, which is probably what I would imagine baby Tyrannosaurs would have looked like. You can see a really nice bluish face. I would imagine it would be something where like the dinosaur would probably transition slowly in color as it got older, and then would eventually end up looking like the parent that we were just looking at. You can see this one here is just walking along really nice and leisurely, kind of following along with its parent as the Tyrannosaur, the adult, is taking a step forward. This one is following along with it. And you can see, again, so much variation of color as you have like almost like orangish browns here at the top of the head, leading into the back of the neck. But then we transition to like a really nice and natural looking kind of tannish and an off-white type of a color. Like it starts out with like a tannish brown, but then transitions kind of to like an off-white the further out into the tail you get. And you can see that there's a really nice striping effect that runs the course of the figure as well, with variations of blacks and browns. And again, the underside just looks beautiful. The arms are really nicely sculpted out as well. Of course, covered in feathers, just like we see elsewhere on the Tyrannosaurus. You can see the eyes are very nicely glossed as well. So a fantastic baby Tyrannosaurus right there. And then we have another one that was kind of sitting down, just looking up at the parent. Of course, sculpted just like the one we just saw, but this one is laying down kind of, or actually I should say sitting down in a very bird-like stance. I love the positioning of this baby Tyrannosaur. It looks super realistic, super lifelike, and again, the positioning of the legs and everything just looks really bird-like. You can see the tail here kind of loops back around and curves back around toward the body. Really nice curve in the neck of the dinosaur as it's staring up at its parent, almost in an envious way, or maybe it's just admiring how unbelievable of a creature its parent truly is. The sculpt work again looks fantastic from every angle. The feather detail looks really nice. You have the same style of paintwork that we just saw in the opposing one, with the kind of orangish brown here leading off of the back of the neck down into the body, where it transitions to like variations of tans and off-whites, and then of course darker browns and stuff. You also have kind of like a white underbelly here, and then bluish skin to the face and the feet, and really nicely painted goldish eyes. Absolutely beautiful again, and you can see it's just sitting here in a nice earthy area. And speaking of the earthy area, we have the base. And of course, you've got a really nice footprint right here for your Tyrannosaur to stand in, as well as kind of like that big area for the peg to go into, so that the Tyrannosaur stands on here perfectly. You also have two open areas because that's where you place your other baby Tyrannosaurs in there, and they fit picture perfect, which you'll see here in a moment when we actually apply them to the base. For the most part, though, it's just a really nice earthy area with some kind of almost like a muddy type of an appearance to it, with many different variations of browns included, making it look super lifelike. And the sculpt work as far as the actual fine detailing goes of the earthy area looks fantastic. You can also see the foot sculpt here of the Tyrannosaur as it's picking its foot up off of the ground, which you'll see here once it's actually on the base. The foot that is the opposing foot is just picking up off of the ground as we're looking at it, so that's the footprint that it would have just left. We also see the footprints of the baby Tyrannosaur as well that's kind of trailing behind the parent. And then if you look over here, you can see a very nice large rock that's sitting nearby. Again, tell me that doesn't look like a real rock. Like, that's super impressive sculpt and paintwork. Just unbelievable. And that's one of the things that's so cool about buying stuff from SP Art Projects, is you get the model sculpted by the original artist, but also painted by the original artist. So you know everything that you are getting is as high quality as it could possibly get. And this base is just unbelievably beautiful. And then here on the underside, you can see that this is the Royal Family Tyrannosaurus Rex, again by SP Art Projects, in 1/25th scale, and it is number 2 of 30, so a very small limited edition run of this model. So if this is something you are interested in, make sure you take into consideration the fact that this is a limited edition of only 30. There's not going to be many of them that last very long. They're not going to be around very long, so once it's gone, and you definitely would want to have this in your collection, trust me. And to show you that, let's put it all together and take a look at the final product. So like I stated, there is a peg here on the foot, and once you find the slot that goes into, you just slide that in. The foot falls into the footprint, and it looks perfect, stands there perfectly. There's no kind of gap or anything. Like, it just generally looks exactly like it should. And like I had stated, this is the foot that had just picked up off of the ground over here, leaving that footprint as the Tyrannosaur is walking along, taking a step. We also have the baby that's following along with its parent, and you just kind of slide this into the spot right there, and now that's in there really quite nicely. Of course, its footprints are trailing right there as well. And then you have the baby that's kind of admiring the parent, and you just have to find that right spot, and it sits in there perfectly as well. If I could find it. Oh, there we go. We got it. So there's the spot that goes in, and that as well now is added perfectly to the base. and the entire scene has been created for you of a parent tyrannosaur with its babies. As far as a size goes, for a length on the tyrannosaur from the head out here to the tail, you were looking at about 17.5 inches, or about 44.5 centimeters. And then for a height, as we wave this in front of the camera and smack some stuff with it, for a height to the top of the head, you're looking at just a little over 9.5 inches, or closing on 10 inches, or about 24.5 centimeters roughly. As far as a size for the baby tyrannosaurs, there's not too much going on because they're pretty small, but you could see for a length about 4 inches on this one, or about 10 centimeters. And then this one, there's really not much you can do for a size because he's just kind of curled and in a laying down position. So I think to give you a better idea of the size of those figures, we'll just jump to a size comparison. Here is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our SP Art Projects Tyrannosaurus. I think probably putting the Colovosaurus back there right in front would probably give you a better idea of a size comparison, because with these being a little bit further forward, it almost makes it look like it's a little smaller than it truly is. But you can definitely see in comparison to these figures here next to this Rex that it's a very sizable and very impressive model. Honestly, it is the type of model that would without question be a centerpiece to any prehistoric collection, because it's got everything you would expect: a beautiful scene taking place before you, an incredibly highly detailed sculpt, fantastic, beyond fantastic paintwork, and an impressive size on top of everything, as well as a buttload of realism. So this is without question the total package. And for a second comparison, even though it's not currently on its base, here is the SP Art Projects Styracosaurus next to the Tyrannosaurus, giving you an idea of how those size up next to each other, and just in general how beautiful they look. If you happen to have purchased the Styracosaurus after my initial review of that one, which I highly, highly recommend that Styracosaurus. Cannot stress enough how unbelievable that Styracosaurus truly is. But if you happen to have purchased this one after my previous review, then you'll probably already have that in your collection and will help to give you a good idea, again, of the size of the Rex. So this SP Art Projects Tyrannosaurus Rex is one of the most unbelievable models I've ever had the pleasure of adding into my collection. Just incredible is a word that you could use to describe it, but it truly doesn't do the model justice. It is just drop dead gorgeous here in hand. The model is extremely highly detailed from every aspect. Again, it is one of the most beautiful sculpts that I've ever seen, sporting a half feathered, half scaly tyrannosaur, just looking super, super appealing to the eye as far as the very nice visual appearance of the sculpt. The Tyrannosaur is just kind of taking a step, walking along nice and leisurely, nothing over the top, dramatic going on with the positioning of the body. It looks nice and, at ease as it's caring for its young, just kind of keeping an eye out on its surroundings potentially as it makes a left turn with its neck looking around. And then you, of course, have the two beautiful babies down there underneath that are just kind of following along with the parent, just enjoying their day, having fun, potentially even about to play, as the one baby Tyrannosaur is almost sneaking around the back of the legs of the parent to catch the other one, who is obviously paying more attention to the parent than its sibling, off guard, and who knows what would happen from there. But the sculpts of the babies are both fantastic. Again, really nice, very bird-like, having fully feathered appearances to them, and just overall incredible additions to this model. The paintwork on both is also insanely well done. The amount of paint included in all of these is just mind-blowing, because there's so many different tones, such beautiful subtle paint application, and so many very subtle additions as far as the different tones of color used, that you almost don't even notice it until you get nice and close and really take it all in and just kind of examine the model, and then you'll really get a strong appreciation for the amount of paintwork included in these. Again, being painted by the original artist himself is of course always a great thing, and it shines through on these models here. I also love the amount of realism included in this model, especially when you look at the face and the kind of like wounds and stuff, and just like that area that I had stated earlier that I'm absolutely in love with is like the area of like the mouth that's kind of been torn up and ripped open, now exposing like the gum line and stuff, and the teeth are now exposed over top of the lower jaw. It's just super cool, a really nice area of realism that I love that they've added in here. And they've also added in other elements of realism like gloss coats to the nostrils, the eyes, the, of course, open area of the mouth, as well as kind of like a gloss coat that runs along the mouth, sort of giving it that saliva-like look. And of course, the babies follow right along with the adult as far as using the gloss coat perfectly in different areas that would need it. And again, everything as far as the sculpt and paintwork on these, as well as the realism, and of course, like I had shown you, the size is extremely impressive. And then the base is just the icing on the cake as far as this goes. Again, showing what looks to be a picture-perfect base for the exact area that this dinosaur would probably be living, as well as an incredibly highly detailed base, perfectly painted, perfectly replicating an area of the earth that almost looks like he genuinely took a piece of the earth and then just sent it through the mail and just kind of threw a Tyrannosaurus model on top. It looks that realistic and lifelike. So when I say that I could not possibly recommend this model any more than I'm already trying to recommend it to you guys, that is 100% honest truth, because this is easily one of the most amazing models I've ever seen, and something that I am beyond confident in the fact that if you guys ordered it, you would be absolutely over the moon in love with it like I am currently. So if you are interested, again, keep in mind that it is a limited edition of only 30, and in fact, all of the SP Art Projects models are limited editions, so it's something to think about if you're considering buying it. I wouldn't wait very long, because as time goes on, these will without question sell out, and it's something that I feel like is a must-have. So if you are interested, I will of course include a link in the description to SP Art Projects on Instagram, as well as my email where you can contact me to help you order it if you do not have social media. But one way or another, definitely pick this up, and like, comment, and subscribe before you do, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.